What's up, everybody? This is SB Real Brad, and today I'm going to be talking about the 1976 horror Halloween classic that was adapted from Stephen King's first novel ever, Carrie. Carrie was directed by Brian De Palma, and it stars Sissy Spacek and Laurie Piper, as well as John Travolta. Carrie is a film that I particularly enjoy so much because this movie is a supernatural horror film, but I like that it's not very structured as a typical generic horror film. This film really does focus on its characters and the themes of religious fanaticism and bullying, and how those two can really affect young people, as it really explores that within this movie. A really cool aspect of this telekinesis that Carrie White has in this movie, that they don't really get into it, they don't really explain why she has this telekinesis, but it's a part of the story, and it really does add to her character, and it actually develops her arc so well in this movie, and not just there to create these horror and really great moments in the movie, which does happen, but it's not just the whole movie as we would probably see in a more updated version of Carrie. Best aspects of this film is Sissy Spacek and Laurie Piper. They are phenomenal in this movie as they play Carrie White and Carrie White's mom. They were both nominated for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress. They really do carry this movie, and I think without them, I don't know if this movie would hinge on those emotional aspects, because the dynamic between them is just really dark. It's very manipulative, and it's really the best scenes in the whole film when it's centered around them. But I also gotta think that the movie does a really well job with these characters because of the writing. The writing is really top notch in this movie for a horror 1970s movie, as they really dive deep into these characters, and so that's what makes the performances so much better, as they have so much to work with, as the writing at times can be pretty funny, very interesting, but also very heartbreaking and emotionally thrawing, and it just, I don't know, it just gets under my skin every single time I watch it. There's some really great lines in this movie that are really iconic, really memorable, especially with the gym teacher just handing out disses to all these kids and getting away with stuff you could probably never get away with now, and that is probably for the better. With the movie's themes of the bullying and religious fanaticism, it really just shows that how much that we have come so far, as those were really big issues during those times in the 70s where bullying was just so rampantly high, and we really get to see a side of women just really just being so awful and manipulative. And I feel like we haven't really seen that in film by the time this movie came out, as you've seen a lot more of the guys bullying each other with the jocks and the nerds, and you've seen that kind of aspect, but I feel like in this movie really hits hard, and you just see how nasty women can be, especially with a young woman that's going through women's issues that they all have, and they just make fun of her for it and just really put her down because she's different than everybody else. And I feel like Mean Girls is like a cupcake compared to how awful these women treat her. Another really awesome aspect, as I was mentioning, was the religious fanaticism, with how someone can be just so involved in their religion and in their evangelism like Christianity that they take it too far, and it just overcomes their whole thinking process. And I love how that really develops so well in this movie, and as you get the twist of why the mother is the way she is, you totally understand it, but it makes it all the more disturbing and all the more frightening, as that really is the true horror of this movie. Climax is absolutely iconic. I mean, everyone knows the climax to Carrie. That is truly iconic, and I don't want to spoil it here just in case anybody hasn't watched it, but it really is awesome. It's epic, and it really is so disturbing, and just seeing the downfall of everything that's happening. It's so exciting, it's really entertaining to watch, and it still holds up to this day. Music composed by Kino Taniguchi is very great in this film. It really captures that mood and that theme and that feeling that this movie gives off, and it does a really awesome job having this more supernatural spectacle feel to it that works perfectly within this film. Brian De Palma has proven that he is such a great director, and he really handles this film so well, creating so much atmosphere, so much tension, and some really awesome shots within this film that really do capture the horrific and horrible moments that are sprinkled throughout this movie. The editing and cinematography are also really great as well. They're really on their game with this movie, trying to make the presentation, the technical aspects really there, so the movie feels like it has a little bit of a budget, and it feels like they were trying to make this movie as good as it possibly can be. We're gonna go through some negatives here. I think the movie's just a little bit outdated. I think some of the acting really isn't all that great. I kind of give it a pass because it's like that 70s horror movie acting that has a little bit of a charm to it, just because it's something that I personally like, but I know that if people come into this movie really critical, they might just flat out hate it. It might be overall very distracting to them, and at times it is, but I feel like some of the writing that they give some of the more worst actors in the movie is a little more funny, a little more just silly at times, so it overall works there. I think there are some really great things with the makeup and costume design. Also, a major criticism I do have is probably the first 2 to 3 minutes of this movie, where all the women are in this locker room, and a lot of them are, you know, naked with their chest out and private parts exposed. It was just something that I feel like the shots were on there too long, and I felt the women were very heavily sexualized in this movie. And it's something I normally don't necessarily think about, but it was just so glaringly obvious, as Brian De Palma has gotten some criticism for this in many of his films. So, you know, that may be something that he just might have in his movies, and you know, it's something that I don't think works in this movie at all. And as granted, none of these kids are actually 16 or 18. Like, pretty much everyone's at least 26 or above, so there's always that outdated and really weird aspect to the movie. But it was just, I don't know, just made me a little uncomfortable, and I feel like if you took some those cuts away, and it would have been fine. I don't care if they're shown in a rated R film, but if it's just heavily exposed on those regions for so long and just not creating emotion, not creating immersion, or having anything to say, then I feel as though that it is just an overly sexualized situation. Overall, I really do love this movie. I think you guys really got to check it out. It is such a great horror film that really does focus on the characters, the story, and really ties it all together for a great Stephen King adaptation that is very faithful to the novel. It is definitely one of my favorites to watch during Halloween. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. Let me know, have you guys seen Carrie? Have you seen the remake? Let me know down below in the comment section. I would love to hear about it. As always, please like and share the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It means the world to me. You guys are liking my videos. Subscribe to my channel. You guys are the best. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.